Oh, I was set up for this, I promised you earlier. Hello and welcome to Planes TV's weekly Thursday show. Steve and I've got a guest on this show. You might be able to hear Steve laughing in the background at my, shall we say, incompetence? That's maybe a bit of... let's put Steve up. So Steve and I, we share a common interest. So we're both aviation, video production people based in the UK. And this stream that I'm doing every Thursday, I've given it a name, by the way. I've called it the Crowdline or Crowdline.
Good name.
Yeah, you think so? I really wasn't sure.
Yeah, I like it.
Yeah. So the aim of this Thursday show is really, it's to get ourselves out there, make use of my live kit, but also give a platform to other people and operators and people in the airshow and aviation industry. So, Steve, welcome.
Thank you. Thanks for asking.
And a brief introduction to you. I've got Wings TV down at the bottom there, but you're perhaps most well known, at least to me, as the producer of the Flying Legends DVD, Blu-ray, and an online production. But tell us about how you got into filming air shows.
Well, I started actually doing a documentary for, of all things, he was a chap who was the drummer from an 80s band called Imagination.
Okay.
And he was producing aviation documentaries for some strange reason. And so I made a documentary about the Blenheim, about its restoration and its return to flight.
Yeah.
And from that, I kind of was going up to Duxford quite a lot and ended up filming the VE Day anniversary show in '95. And it kind of all went from there, really. It was a kind of started at Duxford and then worked out, really.
Duxford ties in nicely to this clip. So if you've watched one of these before, I'm just going to double check we're live everywhere. Hello, everyone, and welcome everyone in the chat. Hello, Chris. Hello, Ryan. Good to see some usual faces. And we've got Chris on board as well, who... Hey, if you spot any spam, Chris, do feel free to remove it from the chat over on YouTube. So if you've watched one of these before, I've tried to bring in a bit of video from previous events, and this is probably one of the more famous video clips on the internet, and Steve is the man that's responsible for it. Let's have a look. If you and do tell us if you recognise it. I'm sure you do.
Made its first ever flight from the Supermarine Works at Eastleigh in southern England, heralding the start of a legend that is just as powerful today as it was during those dark years of World War II.
I love it, and thank you for doing all the beeping for me there, Steve. That's quite.
That was the censored version for a mixed audience.
And there's plenty of versions out there. You told me this story many times about how threw it up on a website many years ago, and it just went crazy. It's been shared all over the place.
I've stopped counting when I looked at 100 million views at least across different sites of that one.
Oh,
and that's when I got bored counting. It's probably more than that. So I'll claim it as one of the most famous aviation clips
I think you
out there.
should. Yeah. Tell us the story of it. What was the occasion? What was going on? And need we ask who the pilot was?
Well, I think we all know it was Ray Hanna. We were actually up there filming some links with Alan DeCadley, things called links, which are kind of presenter pieces to camera, for a film about the Spitfire's 60th anniversary. So we were wandering around the airfield, just doing bits and pieces here and there. And I saw Ray about to go off in 434. And I knew them both because I'd made a documentary about 434 called A Spitfire Story. So I mentioned that we were filming and we were going to go and film at the end of the runway, and would he mind keeping it a bit low? And
he obliged.
and he did. He did keep it low.
It's just one of those moments. I'm sure. I mean, I've done nothing as I've shot nothing quite so dramatic, but we all have those moments, don't we, around aircraft that really stick in your memory as
that's not the lowest one. I had a lower one from Mark. Which is another clip that's elsewhere. That's not so famous, but yeah, he was lower. But Ray was about 50 feet above us.
Yeah, by the time we got to
because we were shooting down a long lens. Ray was about 50 foot over the top of us by the time he got to us.
Yes.
The prop tip was very close to the ground at one point,
Yes.
But that was quite away from us. So
Yeah.
he was a good 50 feet, maybe a bit more.
It's seeing the dust being kicked up. When he's a few seconds out, you think, okay, all right. It's
Well,
pretty low.
the producer, a chap called Martin Stockham, was standing behind with a camera. And
still picture,
he grabbed a very famous shot,
Yeah.
where the prop is literally probably, I'll say a foot, but it may be less than a foot off the ground at that point.
Jeez.
So available to buy online still.
What, the still?
Sadly, Martin passed away as well, so that's a kind of sad end to the story. But so there was Martin behind and a sound man who threw himself to the floor as it went over. I dropped to one knee cautiously, but I saw what was coming.
Yeah, well, we had a comment. The reason I've sort of was glad to have you on, and thank you for letting us show that clip as well. Someone asked last week, have we got any Ray Hanna from Biggin Hill? And of course we do. I've prepared a little clip here, and it shows some of the same flying style, and the particular benefits, if you like, of the Biggin Hill as a show site. And we'll go on in a minute to talk about Shuttleworth as well, which is a place that we've both enjoyed filming at in the past. Let's take a look at another classic video as far as I'm concerned. This is Ray Hanna at Biggin Hill.
So we've got the Spitfire with Ray Hanna taking off the whole, and he'll be displaying at 125 production from I think that's where it's running in now from your right. Ray Hanna, Spitfire.
It's a classic of Biggin Hill there, making use of the valley at the far end of the runway, which we used to.
I still remember people gasping at that.
Yeah, I remember.
Every time that happened, you could hit.
Its use slowed down, so they started to restrict it in the final. Forgive me for dropping the sound of a Spitfire here, by the way, everyone that's listening. But hopefully, the material is available on the Biggin Hill product on a website or a DVD somewhere. I remember sitting in one of the 2000s shows, I don't know, gosh, it must have been 2012, 13, something like that, sitting with another pilot who'd flown a classic jet, and he was watching, I think it was John Romain flying actually, and he didn't go full Ray Hanna on the valley, but he did make use of it, and he was sat there going, he can't do that, I wasn't allowed to do that. And it's like, well, there's something just a bit special about the Spitfire finale at Biggin Hill, wasn't there, that rules were, I don't know, I'm going to say rules were relaxed.
I always remember the
look at that.
Engineers at the old flying machine company telling me that they often had to pick out corn stalks from the radiators.
Oh gosh. And that's about the end of that one. Oops. A nice little hawk there, which we won't go on much, but it's I loved the moment as he came into that display where the wings come level over the runway, and it's just that locking in, and you can see his mindset is one of precision, and it's of not adrenaline and excitement, but you can really tell when do people know what I'm describing? Maybe I'll throw this up again. The wings going level in such a sharp way, and it's, I don't know, just the precision there gets me excited and think we're going to enjoy this flying display.
I remember I only ever got one in cockpit shot with Ray Hanna during one display, and the level of calm on his face. It was a rear facing shot, and just there's nothing, you can't see him working hard, or the precision is just ridiculous. No one like him, nor will there ever be.
No. Well, reminiscing here, aren't we? And I'm afraid most of this will be reminiscing older shows. I've got a few more clips from a similar era, but I did just want to introduce the fact that why we're similar people. Steve and I, we both run aviation video companies. Obviously, you're still doing the Legends show, but you've got a history going back very many years, and you've recently launched a similar service to ours, an online subscription service called Wings TV. Tell us a little bit about that and the sort of content people can see on there.
Well, I say, like you, we have a large archive of footage that's kind of sitting on the shelf doing nothing. DVD sales are kind of dropping off, and it's hard to have a large library of DVD sales when you kind of operate as a small business.
Yes.
You're slightly larger than us, so it made sense to put it online. Now, well, our channels differ slightly. That mine's a lot of air shows, but also more documentary.
Yes.
And increasingly, so as it goes along, we'll have more documentary than air show on there. We don't have that same level of library of footage and well, in a normal season, the amount that you'll be filming. So we're different beasts, I think, at the moment. And the idea is we're looking to be a bit more like Discovery Wings was. If you remember Discovery Wings, that's our kind of aim, is to fill that gap in the market. So air shows will be a part of it, but mostly around documentary. And we've got an archive from a company called Gemini Pictures, who used to make a show called Airshow World, which is great. And John Nickel Flies, some people might remember that. That's on there. And we've got quite a few more acquisitions coming of footage. We have access to a huge library of veterans interviews and things that we're starting making shows on over the coming months. So exciting, still early days, still a reasonable start. But like you, I think people are getting more used to subscription TV now. So hopefully it's going to grow.
Yeah, hopefully so. And certainly we've seen that, especially in our current situation. You know, people showing more interest in the online services. And I should tell everyone I subscribed to Steve's this morning because I felt like I needed to watch, and I perhaps should have done earlier. He's kindly refunded me since my subscription fee, which he really didn't have to do. But I was particularly interested by the Waddington stuff. So there's a couple of Waddington shows there, air shows that sort of fill a gap where so my father started our company in the late 80s, early 90s, and kind of stopped doing shows in the early 2000s. And there's a couple of Waddington shows that I think maybe he'd probably recorded out, I don't know, maybe. But I'm going to take a watch of those later. And then a Brayton one as well. So I did a interesting shoot with the Vulcan involving a helicopter and lots of expensive cameras on the ground at Brayton, where, you know, tiny little sleepy airfield. It was the most bizarre experience. But there was an interesting program on there of an air show. Was it an air show or a fly-in? Have you even watched it recently? It's a Gemini one.
I think they were fly-ins in those days at Brayton.
Yes.
It's those Airshow World shows have loads of really, really interesting little pieces from shows that you don't normally go to.
Yes.
There's one from Sea Wings. Do you remember Sea Wings in Southampton?
Yes. I can see Dad.
That was an amazing show.
Yeah, I can see my dad's over in the chat on YouTube. He can maybe respond and tell us whether he was there filming it.
He'll know.
Yeah.
I'm sure he was. He was most places.
He was, yeah. So he certainly got around. I know he's got some material from whether it was the Southampton show or not, I'm not sure. Let's wait for 2 minutes.
I'm pretty sure it was the only show.
Okay,
I think they may have done two of them. The only show that actually was a seaplane show, which was
it's very rare to get
fantastic
aircraft on the sea. You know, with Catalina, the UK, they don't do it. It's a big clean-up operation after. If it was to.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, and sadly, it was press for that particular event. That led to the tragic Catalina crash. So.
Yes.
But fantastic fun. And there's loads of little shows, especially kind of around the world. There's a couple of nice pieces from Old Rhinebeck.
Oh, nice.
Which, as we're coming on to Shuttleworth,
yes,
is the kind of American version of Shuttleworth.
It is.
Very different.
It is
a very similar film and a great place to visit.
I've never done it. I would like to. I'd like to do Oshkosh again as well. I only did it once in 2009, but yeah, we'll have these ambitions. You mentioned Shuttleworth, so the product that's going up on our online subscription service this weekend, and in fact is live now, is Shuttleworth year 1994. So it's a real dip into the archive, but gives a nice sense of what I assume is still a Shuttleworth airshow season. I haven't been for many years. The last time I went, I think I took my girlfriend there. That's the sort of event that it's about the only airshow I would ever take a girlfriend to, or even my family. I think that's probably very harsh on other shows, but it's a very relaxed affair. You know, it's basically a picnic, isn't it, with an air show
It is,
bolted on. So the Shuttleworth product that's gone live, it's, as I say, from 1994. Let's have a dip into that, because it's old stuff.
The de Havilland Tiger Moth is probably the essence of what the collection stands for, and indeed the era which it covers. It's built in wood and fabric, and it's braced and held together and even controlled by wires. Reliable engines were the culmination of years of development, and they were the bedrock on which much aviation achievement in the interwar period was based. The Tiger Moth was built as a trainer, and one of the Shuttleworth Trust's aims is the promotion of education and training in the science and practice and history of aviation. It's a military aircraft, and indeed much of the collection flies today in tribute to the thousands who lost their lives in defence of their country. Around 50 Tiger Moths are still flying, so even today it's an aircraft in which a privileged and dedicated few can still enjoy the freedom of the skies very much as they would have done in the heyday of British aviation. Displaying aeroplanes like the Tiger Moth encapsulates then all aspects of our aviation heritage.
Nice to hear Sean Maffitt's voice there. Did you ever do much voiceover work with Sean?
I did, yeah, reacts.
Yeah.
When we did the reacts, Sean would always do it because he was the commentator then. So,
yes,
lovely guy, really on top of it. I'm just looking at how young the engineers look in those shots.
It's funny you say that. So I remember, I spent years sat on top of the van with Dad at Shuttleworth watching these guys work, and they're familiar faces to me. I don't know too many of them, any of them, I think. But you do still see them, don't you, at Shuttleworth and sporting their aircraft?
Yeah. Quite a few of them in that clip are still there. So.
Yes, I'm sure.
Yes, and there was a peak in the Gladiator there in a completely different scheme.
Yeah, was it a Norwegian?
It escapes me what's Norwegian. Yes, I believe.
Maybe, yes.
I'm sure someone will know.
I think there's a little more of it on this video, and I came across some air-to-air that Dad had shot around that time. In fact, some of the in cockpit here you see. He's in the chat, my dad, over on YouTube, so you can tell me if I'm wrong, but he won a flight. They used to raffle off a flight on board. So he was like, okay, well, I'm taking the camera and we'll shoot a, bit of on-board material.
Look at those shots. There's no better place to shoot an air show than Shuttleworth. There really isn't.
This is it, isn't it? That dog-leg display line. And this display in particular, it's why I've picked it out, really making use of it. I don't know whether you get quite so low anymore, but...
I think it's I think it may have changed a little. Actually, I've just noticed on the stream Peter Bourne has joined, who's currently makes the Shuttleworth collection films.
Does
a very good job of them as well.
Who we should mention. Well done. Yeah.
Yes. Still plenty of DVDs available for current Shuttleworth shows as well, and so spread the promotion around the industry. But he does a very good job, and. He's there all the time and is lucky enough to live nearby, so he gets some great coverage of a great place. I miss filming there, I must admit.
And so do I. Yeah, it's these are programs that I go back and watch. They are. It's the little bits and pieces with engineers and pilots, and certainly there's a really nice narrated sequence with Andy Sefton flying the clip-wing Spitfire around the dogleg, and talking about engine temperatures and things. It's just managing that aircraft through a flying display. It's just fascinating stuff, and a wonderful place to film, as you say. Unfortunately, it's about 4.5 hours away from home for me, so it's not somewhere I get to. I always look if ever I'm in that area or travelling from London back to Lincolnshire, which is old home. I'm in Devon now. I always think, I always have a look at the calendar and see if there's a Shuttleworth show that I could kind of work by.
I keep meaning to every year. The good bit about the place is that the collection is mostly a constant. We're great. You've got those same aircraft and they're well protected and they're well looked after. But the visitors, it's seeing aircraft that you're used to seeing in other locations. Yeah. Very close. And pilots love displaying there. There's no doubt pilots love displaying a shuttle.
It's
and you can see it in the displays. So.
Yeah. It's almost like you knew what clip was coming next, Steve. This is a bit of P-38. In fact, there's a few visiting aircraft. This is all from 1994, as I say, the show that's now available on watch.planestv.com. you can see dipping. Sort of almost sad to see the P-38, isn't it? Especially those
It is,
colours in that era, but just the venue is just perfect for a flying display. Even these larger aircraft really making use of the dog leg, and I think there's a bit of Mosquito and more Spitfire coming up as well.
Oh, really? Okay, I'll be interested to see the Mosquito.
So yeah, I know we've got some really good, really effective, really excellent Mosquito. This material not quite so much. I'm not sure. I don't know. Not sure why in particular, but we do have some material from one year where it's very much along these lines.
It was a great
nice
start.
and low.
I filmed it at Fighter Meet 96,
Mm-hmm.
which is, I think, 2 weeks before it sadly crashed.
Gosh, yeah.
Just a great display. I just desperately hope we get one back here.
Yeah,
So many of them around, and it's so frustrating that some kind benefactor hasn't spent the money and bought one over here yet. But I'm sure it'll happen. There's lots of talk of it happening. So.
There is. I'm going to let you guys watch a little bit of this and just see who's in the chat.
It flies now in the colours it wore when flying over the D-Day beaches with number 443 RCAF Squadron. The Mosquito, the famous wooden wonder. De Havilland's, with all their experience of wooden aircraft, proposed this design to the Air Ministry, but it was rejected. Fortunately, they pursued it as a private venture, because the Mozzie went on to become one of the most successful aircraft of the Second World War. This one's operated by British Aerospace. It's the only one flying in the UK, and one of only 2 in the world.
Yeah, it's good stuff. As I say, not quite the dramatic Mosquito display that we have seen at Shuttleworth over the years, but in that era.
Yeah, it didn't keep it low. Yes. I see on the YouTube chat. I've
What's happened on the YouTube chat?
Sorry, my link's dropping.
You were saying you've seen something on the YouTube chat. Someone's got a job, I saw.
Sorry, there we go. Sorry, my link dropped out.
Okay. Well, I can hear you well. You were just saying you saw something on the YouTube chat. No, I didn't spot anything of interest. Right? Not to take anything away from... Now the Horseman, yeah, hello.
Sorry, yeah, technical problems.
Oh, okay. I'll let you figure those out.
Right, solved. Thank you. No,
well done.
I saw your dad talking about putting out some of that Sea Wings footage.
Sea Wings,
that's
yeah.
been previously unreleased, yes.
Yes, yeah. And it is one that he always mentions. It must have been it's not a show I recall going to myself, but it's certainly lodged in his memory as a show that needs airing.
It was fantastic. I got to fly in the Albatross and do
nice.
some water takeoffs and landings. That was very exciting.
Superb.
Yes.
I always think the best gig would be to make very good friends with the Catalina guys and spend a bit of time on the Swiss lakes one summer. Like that would be a documentary worth making.
I don't want to bore you with my story about how I spent a week on the Catalina.
Oh, go on. No, do.
When I first started, I released a monthly show called Flying Monthly, and I made a film about the Catalina, the first version of Plain Sailing's one.
Yes.
And we flew down to Biscarrosse in the Bay of Biscay,
Wow.
Seaplane Festival. So flew all the way down there, spent a couple of days down there, then flew to Ireland. It's the most sensational thing.
Yes.
It's, yes. Chat up the guys. I would definitely recommend it. It's stunning.
That
It's
would be
utterly stunning.
that would be a nice way to spend a weekend. Or a week, yeah. Yeah, talking about beginnings, going through the Shuttleworth material, I came across this clip. See who can recognise the type.
Operating costs are not only a modern requirement. In 1921, English Electric...
I'll drop Sean down. So my memory is that, so as I keep telling people, I spent my summer weekends as a child and early teenager sat on the roof of the van with Dad. He'd be filming, I'd be watching. But the Wren at Shuttleworth was the first time he let me pick up the camera. So it would have been in my teens, and he was like, I think you can handle this one, give it a go. And you'll see why its performance fairly limited. It's another one of the special things about Shuttleworth, seeing aircraft like this. It just doesn't happen anywhere else. And that is his flying display, a nice little hop down the runway there. I'm not saying that I shot this, I'd have been 10 years old. I think maybe that was would have been a stretch for me at that age. Some good chat going on there. So that's my first aircraft. So you told me earlier your first aviation filming job was air-to-air with a Blenheim, is that right?
It was, yes. When I was making the programme about the restoration of the Blenheim, we went up in a Beech 18
right,
and shot the Blenheim air-to-air. And it was my first... I was not keen on flying before that.
Wow.
So it was my first real experience of flying in a smaller aircraft.
Okay.
They take the door off. We had a tripod out of the door with a stabilised lens on it, and spent an hour filming the Blenheim, which was quite an introduction to it.
Oh, perhaps.
So and then I kind of got hooked after that, really.
Interesting.
And here we still are.
And here we still are. So the annual aviation for you is Legends still, Flying Legends.
Yeah.
But it would be in a normal year, you would hope. I noticed they're still selling tickets. I meant to say.
Still.
Yeah.
It's still not cancelled. I have no inside knowledge on it. But
No.
It's still not cancelled. Assuming it probably will be, but official guidance isn't out yet from the government on what's happening.
This is it.
So,
and you do wonder.
I can understand React cancel because their lead up is enormous. Same with Farnborough and same with the other bigger shows. But the Duxford shows are a bit more self-contained. So
and you do want. Sorry, you go ahead.
I think, ironically, Shuttleworth and Duxford are in the best place for possibly any air shows this year if we're allowed to. I suspect we won't be. But I think because, especially Shuttleworth, it's all sitting there. So the biggest issue for most people is currency of pilots, because the pilots aren't practicing, they aren't getting their displays done. In fact, at Duxford, they're not allowed to go in and maintain the aircraft. So the site is locked down.
Gosh, yeah.
So there's literally nothing going on up there. The aircraft restoration company and people can't get in to maintain them. So everything is just kind of on hold at the moment. So it'll be interesting. I'll be very surprised if we got anything, but there's always hope.
Yeah, there is always hope, and we have to hope that it's the RF displays that anything, if events were to go ahead this summer, it will hinge on RF displays or military displays getting display authorizations, and and I don't know what the current status is of the progress of those practices and things. I know the Reds aren't doing their overseas training, but we've got to hope that if things are relaxed in the summer, I know that there seem to be seaside shows that are still sort of on the calendar, and hoping that they might just be able to spin something up quickly should the restrictions relax.
That's right. I just see in the chat on YouTube that the Horseman has been told by Nick Flying Legends is on.
Okay, yes. Interesting. I've been told by Nick it is.
That would be, yes.
Okay.
That's very optimistic.
Well, let's be optimistic,
So is the Horseman the Horseman?
You'll have to verify that yourself.
Because of course, if they've been told by Nick.
I think it was Dan. Say hello, Dan, if that is you in the YouTube chat, and thanks for the insight if it is. He's saying, yeah.
It'd be news to me. I'd be very happy.
Yeah, and I'll probably see you there because I've got nothing else on. Get the. I'll sell a few DVDs on the Airshow store.
It is the best Airshow, I think, for me. Still, I never tire of it. Yeah. Even though some of the lineups, people can complain that it's not quite as good as it used to be, and that's for a number of reasons that are out of their control. But it's still, when you see the Spitfire tail chase, it's just, and the Balbo at the end, and all those elements, it's something else.
It really is.
I filmed air shows around the world, as you have, and I think it has something that no other air show particularly has.
Yes.
Perhaps the Confederate Air Force show is in Texas is reasonably close. I filmed that, and that's quite spectacular. But yeah, there's something about Legends, which is why people are missing it so much. So.
And a Duxford show in general, I do look forward to the September show and the May show, but September show in particular. It's 3 shows a year, probably more back in the day. That airfield, the people involved with it. Okay, Legends is its own thing, but there is a flow to every flying display there. It really does feel. And
it doesn't stop. It is a nightmare to film.
Yeah,
it's an utter nightmare. There's no gaps.
No.
There's things taking off while other things are still displaying and stuff landing. It's just until you know the rhythm of it. It's very difficult.
I tried to capture that in the first program that I made of Duxford in sound 2008 sound right? Gosh, I'm really bad with my years here, but somewhere in that region. Yeah, 19.
We would. Our last Duxford show was 2009.
Okay.
So maybe I think you were the year after. I think.
Yeah.
So maybe 2010.
2010 perhaps, and it was a big year, so lots of Spitfires. I was happy with the end result, but I did try and layer it up a little bit, so to get a bit of a sense of that. Here's an aircraft taxiing out that's about to display in a few minutes, and another pass from this aircraft, and it didn't work fully. So I've made the rule now that I will allow myself to do that, to try and capture a bit of the flow of a show, but only when both aircraft are in the shot. So I'll happily have a MiG taxiing out if it's a wide angle with the current display aircraft flying in the background, but I won't show what's actually happened on the day if it doesn't have that context, because it becomes quite disorientating to the viewer.
It does, yes.
When you describe what it looks like on screen, it sounds like a Duxford Air show. It was weird. I was watching the so-and-so display, and then such and such taxied out. It's like, well, yeah, that's what happened, but it doesn't quite work unless you've got that context of the actual flying display in the background. One of those things you live and learn. So it does sound like it's.
It's a tricky show to film. I see, as I saw on a couple of the comments, people saying, "What would you recommend for someone who just enjoys filming at air shows? Any tips?" What are yours?
Ooh, that's a good one. Don't bother. Film your family. Buy the DVD. is the advice my dad would give. And do you know what? There is some solid advice there. It is a shame to see people there with their family filming the flying display, and maybe you're going to get some entertainment value out of that when you get home, but the kids are going to grow up. Grandma's not going to be here forever. Those are the shots that you'll really treasure when you're much older. I think there's some validity to that. But if you're a guy on your own whose ambition is to really produce some spectacular video from a show, my advice would be, decent tripod, sensible lens, and if you can get a camera and lens setup that gives you power zoom, that would be beneficial. Sound is always tricky, isn't it? Shooting from the crowd, you're going to get whatever's coming out over the speakers. We run, I don't know what you do at Legends, but we run microphones out into the airfield wherever we can. So mics out 40 metres into the airfield at Fairford, for example, that
We're actually out on the airfield at Legends, so we're filming from the flight line.
Yeah.
So we're just behind the tails of the aircraft, so we're completely clear of the PA.
And of course, you're not.
Well, until it's been turned up recently in the last few years, but we can't hear it at all.
Because the Crowdline shifted forward a little bit, didn't it, at Duxford? I don't know whether those speakers have shifted forwards as well. I can't think.
I think they've just made it a bit louder, and But you can only hear it in the background when there's nothing going on. It really doesn't kind of encroach on the display. But yeah,
And-
sound always was a thing. I remember It's a nightmare to get clean sound, isn't it? Because there's
Well,
so
those
much
mics
going on.
do work. So we run 4 microphones out into the airfield, a couple of stereo pairs, different microphone types. Because we're live broadcasting as well, of course. So you need good audio throughout the entire day. So they sit there. Of course, when you get a torrential downpour at 10 minutes before the flying starts, and you're looking at your microphones, thinking, "Ooh, hope they survive." We've had.
Of course, because we tried bagging them one year, but if it rains and you put the bags over them, all you hear is the sound of the rain.
Yeah.
If you're tapping on the bag. So
We have a foam cube that you do hear, not quite as bad as something fully waterproof, but it does take the edge off a little bit. But this is not advice that's going to be of use to someone at a show.
No.
How about you? What advice would you give someone trying to shoot video?
I think having a tripod or a monopod is it's not always easy to get tripods at shows, is it? When you're in the crowd, but a monopod can help with stability. Knowing where the aircraft's going, that's always good.
Yes.
One of the things when we employ guys who aren't specialised in filming aircraft, and you can see it on the news, they always lose them because they don't know where the aircraft's going. So I think if you've seen a few displays and you know what the display's going to look like, it's much easier to follow close up.
Yeah.
So good zoom lens.
Yeah, good bit of power's got to be helpful. Although, the material that always stands out for me, maybe it's just because it's the sort of material I value in the edit, but it's stuff that's shot a little bit back from the crowd, and it's wide angle stuff. It's getting the sense of the event, a bit of crowd for context, and a bit of atmosphere and emotion, actually, rather than just the flying display, which is our focus. That's always been the focus for Planes TV, Aviation Action before it. My dad is focus all of your efforts on getting a really nice telephoto shot of the aircraft, record that flying display in its purest form possible. We're talking about clean audio and all the rest of it, and that is really valuable. It's good to get that, of course, but you can lose the sense of the event and the setting by over focusing on it.
You use more wide shots on your filming than I do on mine. Generally, I think you have more event stuff. I tend to concentrate on the closer stuff.
Yeah.
But the closer stuff doesn't work if there's no background. If there's no clouds in the sky, it's just plain blue or plain grey.
Yes.
You don't really get a sense of the movement of the aircraft, which is the fine balance we do in the edit, isn't it? Really?
So that's tip number 5 or 6. Make sure the weather's good, which we've got zero control over. But we've all lived that life.
And I see the master, your father, who's saying the same thing.
Oh, is he really?
Yes. Make sure you include your family. Yes.
Yeah. Well, he has a stock piece that goes in airshow programs occasionally, which is tips from the masters.
Sit back and let us do the filming.
Well, I think it's solid advice.
The DVD, as you say.
I've got one more clip from Shuttleworth here. It's a bit of a weird one. Have you ever recorded one of these events? This is Model Aviation at Shuttleworth, and they do a few shows used to. I don't know whether they still happen, but I remember these vividly. Hundreds of people airside, what would normally be airside at Shuttleworth, with model aircraft zipping about, JetX aeroplanes taking your head off. Lots of fun.
That.
Ever been a modeler? Ever built any radio controlled stuff? Or no?
No, I've resisted that temptation. I do walk past the guys with the models thinking, how amazing are they?
Yeah.
There's some stunning stuff. I remember, especially the big ones, the really massive ones are stunning.
Oh man,
I haven't got the patience, I'm afraid.
Yeah, I've got a shelf in the garage full of this stuff, but I haven't flown a radio controlled thing for years. I think it's going to become part of the setup behind me on these live streams, just dangling from the wall. As a reminder that I did once fly model aeroplanes.
I'm still intrigued by the horsemen on YouTube.
Oh, yes.
They seem to be giving all sorts of secrets away here. So.
Oh, excellent. Anything else?
Flip to the YouTube stream if you were.
I can see.
Although they're not telling you what aircraft they might be filming if they're at Legend. They might be flying in if they're at Legend.
Okay.
I think I can take a guess at that.
P-51s or something else. Flying Bulls returning.
Let's hope.
Yeah, I love the optimism.
Yeah.
Keep it up.
It's
Like
13
that.
weeks away. It's not long, I'm afraid.
Mm.
With no one with any display currency or aircraft service, still possible, but we'll see. I haven't
Yes.
seen the announcement today. They've made an announcement on the lockdown today, or they're going to, so I'm not quite sure what they're going to say.
We cross our fingers, don't we?
We'll see.
We
But there
will.
is plenty of aviation to watch while you're on lockdown, of course, on the excellent Planes TV streaming channel.
Quite right, including that. All these little clips have been from Shuttleworth year 1994. It's available on watch.planestv.com if you want to subscribe over there. And yeah, Steve's got Wings TV. So what have you published this week? I saw some air-to-air MH434, which ties in nicely with the clip that we opened with.
Which was actually the first air-to-air I did of MH434, which is out the back of a Harvard. So
Harvard.
I found the original footage of that. And just thought it's a nice 10-minute clip of just the good bits from that. So I'm going to be doing
nice.
more of that, just putting rushes up and mini cams and just shots that again just sit on a tape at the moment. So oh wow, I've actually gone live with it. It's
Both of us. You hear me all right, Steve?
no, I lost you in all that. I could see
I
I
was
could see the
admiring.
screenshot, but I couldn't hear you at all.
I was admiring your list of related videos on the Spitfire page, the top one being Waddington. Waddington was a local show for me. I broadcast the whole thing last weekend from 2014, the last one. And yeah, I don't know whether I'd have even been at those shows, 02, 03. I'm going to give them a watch at some point. Got fond memories of being there with friends.
O2, I think, is one of our best shows that we've done.
Really?
There's literally interviews with almost every pilot who flew at it. Some talking through their display routines,
Yeah.
and how they fly it in cockpit in the MiG-29 and the F4 Phantom.
Fantastic.
2 cameras in the Phantom, 2 cameras in the GR4, and the F-16. So yeah, I hadn't seen it for years, and it was a really, really good show. So
Super.
so that's what we put up this week, and I'm going to put another RIAT up later in this week as well. So
Oh,
which is
cool.
the final RIAT we have in our library before you took over.
Well, I think there was Media Group in between, wasn't there? But so what year would that
Of
have
course,
been?
there was. Yes, yeah. 12, I think, is the
Okay.
last one we did.
And what was the theme that year?
2012.
What sort of stuff have we got on there?
I haven't looked at it yet, so I can't remember.
I
The
really,
usual great stuff.
I don't know about you, but I really enjoy. So I'll find myself, hit and play on the thing to make sure it works. I've got a bit of a schedule of stuff to go live on the service, and I really enjoy watching it. So I'll hit play and find myself 45 minutes later still watching. They're great shows, these old ones.
The only thing I remember about that year is I think that was the year I met Buzz Aldrin.
Oh wow!
We had the strangest experience. We were sitting in the media centre, and one of us came in and said, "Do you want an interview with Buzz Aldrin?" Which I think is the stupidest question I've ever been asked. Because he just turned up with a delegation of people. They didn't know he was coming. He flew in with someone and then made him available for interviews. So I had 15 minutes to prepare for an interview with Buzz Aldrin.
Oh, wicked.
I pride myself on the fact I never asked him about the moon. Didn't ask him one question about being an astronaut.
So what line of questioning do you go for then with Buzz? Well,
I talked about being a test pilot and flying in the Korean War and what the Sabre was like to fly.
Nice.
He talked about the moon because that he was programmed to. But yeah.
Yes. Oh, fantastic.
I never got one picture with him, which was really the days before selfie.
It's one of the frustrations of the way that we shoot RIAT now is that because we're doing the live broadcast. I mean, live, as I'm very acutely aware of right now, because we're live, and I'm juggling lots of things, thinking about it, and so when that's happening at RIAT and it's a pay-per-view service as well, that becomes the focus, and I find it very difficult to step away from just making sure what's going out is excellent. So I don't actually shoot many interviews at RIAT, and we get back to the trailer at the end of the day and start transferring clips, and the camera guys have all met Eddie Izzard and Carol Vorderman and all these wonderful aviation.
It is the hardest air show to film, but hardest airshow by a mile to film properly. I don't envy you. Yeah, it is a massive undertaking. It's enormous.
You've talked in the past about, is it, what was the TV, regional TV guys that used to do it?
Central. What was Central? Yes, they used to do a live outside broadcast from it.
Yes.
So I think the first time we did it, there was 15 cameras and we were all live, and it was all very exciting. They had a budget.
So we do a live outside broadcast, but we don't have a large budget, and so we're 3 cameras and we're all wired in within a sort of 50-meter cable run of one location. But I know those, that Central TV day sounded pretty spectacular.
The first time I filmed it was on. There's a kind of, it looks like a little air raid shelter in the middle of the grass next to the runway. I think they use it for storing stuff, and it's literally at the kind of centre of the display line. And my camera was on top of that.
Oh gosh. Under the display line.
Under the display line.
Yeah.
And they used to put a scaffolding up at the end of the runway.
Yes.
Because of course it goes over a dip, and then it would be a camera direct at the end of the runway as well. Stuff you couldn't do now.
Yeah, although I always think a remote camera, PTZ camera set up somewhere airside would actually work quite nicely. It's just the cost and the time and effort of going and doing that is just a bit of a challenge, unfortunately. Let's have another look at a clip that I'm doing these live broadcasts each Thursday, 4 p.m. Gradually changing the format, bringing in guests, and if there's anyone out there who'd like to join me on one, do make yourself known on social media. I'd love to have you. I'm also doing one at weekends at the moment. There's very little chance of us getting this outside broadcast gear out to any shows, so thought we'd try and set up a bit of a routine of outputting older live air shows out over the weekends. And I've dug out a hard drive from 2014. We did Waddington last weekend. I'm hoping to do Eastbourne, and 2014 was quite a special year at Eastbourne because of these guys. So it was the year the Canadian Lancaster came over to the UK, and quite a spectacular sight.
Best thing ever. That was seeing that was my favourite thing.
Did you shoot it?
They were there. They flew out of Bournemouth, so I went down to Bournemouth to watch them going off and flying past. As they came back for, I think, that particular display. Just to someone go and watch it. I wasn't filming it.
Yes.
And it was the most amazing thing I've seen, I think. Let's hope we can get that again at some point.
That would be nice, or something that some other large aircraft from the US would be nice sometimes, just to spice things up.
Well, at some point, our friends up in Lincolnshire will hopefully have their.
Of course.
So that might be a possibility before long.
Yes, fingers crossed. It's nice to see the a little bit of ingenuity going on, isn't it, in the historic aviation world? It's some new types, new or multiples of things like Lancaster. It'd be wonderful to see. Mosquito, we said earlier, it'd be something special. Thinking back to 2014, that it's another time I've taken family out to watch an air show, which, okay, that sounds crazy. Everyone does that, don't they? Well, to me, air shows are work, and generally I've got lots of other distractions at the event, and it's generally not a very pleasurable place to take your kids and whatever for me, because I've got other responsibilities. But we did go to Dawlish that year. I don't know if you've ever sat up on the hill for a Dawlish air show, which no longer happens, unfortunately, but that was spectacular. A spectacular place to watch those Lancasters flying around. I'll tell you the story about lack of microphones another time and having to dub in the sound of 2 Lancasters down to that material, but we've all made those mistakes as well. Have you had any major gaffes like that? So at that particular show, I had a microphone but no microphone cable, just because I was probably distracted by
I did. I was meant to be filming an air race at Benbridge, I think it's maybe the Schneider Trophy, and I turned up, got to the Isle of Wight, forgotten the tripod plate.
Yes, I've done tripod plate.
And tripod plate means you can't use the tripod, which for aviation filming with a long lens is not good at all. So that was about the worst thing.
We've done similar things. I remember one time, I can't remember where he was going, but Dad made it all the way to Europe on the ferry and realised that it was a tripod plate or wrong tripod or something, and came back on the next ferry because he'd realised, and we did a swap over of tripods, and off he went to go and shoot whatever show it was. It reminds me of another story, a Waddington-based one of had an intern working for us, and Dad asked, so they were, we had a fixed location on the site, but there's the press enclosure as well. They were moving around a bit, so they found themselves over the press enclosure, didn't have the tripod, needed it, sent the intern off to go and fetch it, tripod in a blue bag, and the poor guy turned up with a marquee in a blue bag, a heavy steel frame marquee. How he did it, I have no idea. Yeah, anyway, that's said about that. The better, probably. So I've run out of
if I'd have known the Horsemen were going to be on the thing, I would have given you some Horseman clips. Got some fantastic in cockpit from them. They very kindly helped us out a lot when they were over, and got some amazing stuff from Legends.
Yes.
Perhaps another time, but
perhaps.
Thank you, guys.
I've seen some fantastic video material that they've output themselves that has just been...
Yeah. Oh, there's their original trailer that they did was one of the best aviation films I've seen. I can't remember the name of the guy that did it, but Steve something or other. But yeah, brilliant. They had a budget, which helps. Yes. It was handy to have a helicopter with a stabilised lens and a West Cam or something.
Yes.
That really does make your pictures a lot nicer. But yeah, no, that was utterly stunning. So
it's always an ambition for me at Airshow, is a helicopter with a shot over rig set up behind the crowd somewhere. But in this day and age, it's a challenging thing to organise. There's always the thought of drones as well. You can do quite a lot with a multi-rotor, but as soon as you start doing that,
in the airfields,
as soon as you start doing that, it's an invitation, isn't it? So yeah.
My dream shot is a helicopter with a stabilised lens hovering over Duxford as the Balbo comes towards it. So that would be my
I've seen similar material from Wanaka. Maybe you're familiar with the clip, and it's a helicopter hovering over with aircraft passing underneath it. I think maybe it looked like something shot before the event, separate to the show as a bit of a promo clip. But you could see, so there was an onboard camera as well. It might even have been Ray Hanna or Mark potentially. There's the camera on him.
Maybe at that point,
And you see the aircraft sort of just react to the air of the helicopter above it, and a little smile appear of, wasn't quite expecting that, But yeah,
it's fantastic filming aviation from a helicopter with stabilised lens. I did the World Aerobatic Gliding Championships out in Austria, which is I can't remember the name of the airfield, but it's in the mountains. So we had a helicopter for a day filming then, and the other one I did was in Blackpool, not quite so scenic. But still stunning. We'd love the budget, but
yes.
Television.
So the one and only time I had the budget was Vulcan was coming to an end, and there was this sense that the opportunity's gone, isn't it, at the end of the year? So let's get the very best material we possibly can. So 4K, really good sound. So we went off to Brayton. We were talking about that show earlier on your Wings TV service. Helicopter, couple of 4K cameras on the ground, sound man out in the airfields, just recording everything as cleanly as we possibly could do. I was forgetting slightly that Brayton, the other side of the airfield, is a bit of an industrial sort of complex that didn't make it for a terribly good backdrop, and the air-to-air material was you always wish for something better, don't you? But it was okay. It was fun to play around with the helicopter and see what we could achieve there. But it's the sort of thing that I'd like to do a few more times before I felt like I had a really good hold over it and something I could employ regularly.
But you have some great footage from the from some formation practice. I remember from Europe. You were at the back of a Skyvan or something like that, with lots of jets.
Lots of jets. Oh, okay. So Ostrava, NATO days out in the Czech Republic, and I've been emailing my good friend Ivan out there at the moment because they're we're all struggling with this lockdown, and they are more restricted than the rest of us. They have to wear a face mask outside and all the rest of it. It seems quite crazy. But yes, each year, so Ironbird, the guy Ironbird set up these air-to-air flights and they kindly make space for us. We shoot material to promote the air show, promote NATO days, and some of the aircraft we get up there, it's just fantastic. The one anecdote I'll give, so we did one flight primarily for the Saudi Hawks, so you know, big team, excited to have them there, important press opportunity, so we had the press on the flight with us. So the beauty of the Skyvan is that you can get quite a lot of people on the rear ramp there. So I sit in the middle at the back on the very edge of the ramp, which the first 2 times you do it is the most terrifying thing you could possibly do.
Strapped in?
Strapped in, of course.
Tether?
Oh yeah, 2 tethers and all the rest of it. But every time you hit a bump, you feel like you're about to fall to your death. So it's, you know, it is a bit of a scary thing to do. On that particular flight, we spent ages. It was very cold, so we were up quite high, and it wasn't too bad turbulence wise, but it gradually progressed and got worse. And we were hanging on. Things had slipped. I had a guy from the Saudi Hawk sat beside me, who didn't look ever so comfortable in the situation that he'd found himself in. The Czech TV guys who were being thrown around in the turbulence. Everyone all secured down, you know, perfectly safe, but just you know, a little bit scary. And the worst of the turbulence occurred just as the aircraft were coming into shot. So, you know, just at that very last moment, the aircraft threw everyone up in the air, and yeah, I've got about 2 seconds shot at 90 frames a second, so that equals someone do the math, 6 or 7 seconds of usable material. But that's all you need it for, isn't it? It's just that one little moment of something very dramatic. Yes,
I remember at Mildenhall one year. In fact, for the Mildenhall show that's on our site, they gave us a KC-135 to film when the B2 first came over. So we went up in a KC-135. We had a BBC film crew in another KC-135 because it's the BBC and they get their own KC-135. You know, that's how it works in the BBC. And we flew up over, and the B2 came in. So I was sitting in the refueling pod next to the chap operating the boom, and in comes this B2, and as it comes in, it pushes a bow wave forward because of the shape of it.
Yeah.
So the aircraft actually, as it comes in, the tail lifts, and you get a little bit of movement. I was thinking, I'm not going to get the shot. And then, of course, it calms down. And she has this black thing heading towards you. I can just see a bit of orange on the front of it. And as it got very close, they had one of those stick-on Garfields on the inside of the cockpit.
Nice.
You know, the world's most expensive, powerful bomber aircraft with a Garfield in it. Yes. Sorry, that's my jet air-to-air story. Sorry.
Fantastic. No, I think we'll leave it there. I've aimed to keep these things around about 60 minutes, so I think we'll start to say our goodbyes. We as I say, I'm going to try and broadcast a full Eastbourne show at the weekend. Wish me luck with that. I had a little trouble with the hard drive. I don't know how you store all your archive stuff, Steve, but
on hard drives that almost always spin up, but not always.
Yeah. So this one spun up and then did some weird things as I was transferring, and the Lancaster clip I showed earlier, about half a second after the end of it, there's a big sound blip and the channels go all over the place. So yeah, a little bit suspicious of it, but wish me luck, and hopefully I'll get a video ready for Saturday to do a full live broadcast of Eastbourne. But yeah, I think we'll leave it at that. And what I thought I might do is just head back, if anyone's just joined us. We've covered all sorts of stuff. Hopefully it's been interesting. You must tell me whether it's whether it has. Or we covered Ray Hanna. So Steve's got a remarkable bit of material of him at Duxford, and I thought we'd just end with going back over the sequence at Biggin Hill. Someone asked for it last week, and it was quite a dramatic bit of material. So Steve, thank you very much for joining me. Tell people where they can watch all of the material that you've been talking about.
Mine is wingstv.co.uk.
Fabulous.
And just search Wings TV channel on Facebook for our Facebook page.
Superb. All right, let's take one last little look at Ray Hanna at Biggin Hill. Cheers, guys. See you next week.
So we've got the Spitfire with Ray Hanna taking off the whole of the display at 125 eruption from the I think that's the best way to present it. Running it now from your right. Ray Hanna, Spitfire.